NeuronaTV, transmitiendo en IAB Conecta 2014, este gran evento con grandes conferencias. Y bueno, tenemos la oportunidad de estar ahorita con Melissa Barnes. ¿Cómo estás, Melissa? How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Excited to be here.
First time in Mexico?
Not my first time in Mexico, first time in Mexico City, which I love. It's a beautiful city, great architecture.
Yeah, there's like 25, 28 million people here and a lot of Twitters.
A lot of Twitters, which is why I'm here. We've seen phenomenal growth in this market. It's one of our fastest growing markets in the world. So we're excited. Mexico's a very important market to us.
I love Twitter because I can synthesize what I think and I can share it and you learn. I have three brief questions for you, and I'm sure a lot of people, they want more of Twitter, they want more of you after your great keynote. The first question I would like to do to make you is, what are your recommendations for brands to define success in Twitter?
So I think brands who've done the best job of defining success have gone into it with business goals. You know, they're thinking about how do they want to shift brand sentiment and build brand equity. They're thinking about how do they want to drive people in store. They're thinking about how they lower cost of acquisition of new customers. And so, when we look at our most successful brands, they're going in with those business goals and they're putting in place ways to measure the impact. And so, for example, in the UK, a telco study that we did looked at how Twitter and TV work together. Yeah. And what we saw is that Twitter alone works, TV alone works, but when you put the two together, what the telecom company was able to prove was that they actually saw a decrease of 35% of cost of acquisition of a new mobile subscriber. Okay. From the CPG world, when you put Twitter and TV together, we see an average increase of ROI from 8 to 16%. So that's for every dollar spent, you see that lift. And so we see a lot of folks thinking about it that way, and when you put studies in place where you can measure it, we work with partners to do that, then you see real success.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, I like what you answered, and it takes us to the next question. What are like the main mistakes you see that brands commit on Twitter? I think maybe it has to do a lot with expectation or just wanting to have a lot of followers. But what would be like the three top mistakes or the mistakes that we need to avoid as marketers on Twitter?
Yeah, I'd say the first one is have a goal and design a campaign based on that goal to get people to do what you want them to do or see the results you want to see, right? So if you're a big sponsor of a big event, think about how you amplify that experience of that event so that people see greater connection with your brand association in that event, right? So the business goal is number one. And sometimes brands just join Twitter and expect it to do something for them. That's not how marketing works. The second one I'd say is that they're not thinking about the kind of messaging in a way that is sympathetic to the people they're trying to reach. So if you just hit somebody with a marketing slogan, that's not necessarily going to do as well. Think about how you can make their life better, how you can inform them, how you can entertain them, how you can provide some kind of utility to make things easier. And think about writing in a tone that feels human and personable. And so putting somebody with the skill set to write great content and think about great content is a really important thing to do. Sometimes brands make the mistake of putting their most junior person in charge. Yeah. And you wouldn't do that for your TV campaigns, right? You put creative thinkers behind that, people with that skill set. So think about that for Twitter. And I'd say the third mistake we see brands make is that they're not thinking about how Twitter can connect your story across many channels, right? Because we're public, because we're live, because of sort of the pace at which Twitter moves, the best brands on the platform are designing campaigns that use Twitter to connect their messaging. So, if you air a TV spot and then have a media plan in place so that people watching that TV spot hear from your brand on Twitter with sort of supporting messaging, and then maybe that message takes them to YouTube where they can watch more videos of that great campaign that you've created, and then where does it and within the videos there's a hashtag that takes them back to Twitter where they can connect to other people who are sort of supporting that campaign. So I think that kind of story architecture is where we see a lot of brands starting to go. It's the biggest trend that we've probably seen at the company.
Yeah, so Twitter is just beyond Twitter. It's not just on Twitter. So, well, the last question is more like personal because I'm a fan of Twitter, and I'm sure a lot of people that love Twitter are going to see this video. What is your biggest satisfaction about working in Twitter?
I think for me, it's a company where the values of the people and what the platform can do are so strong. And so we see these events unfold where Twitter plays a critical role in democratizing content and in sort of giving everyone a share of voice around these moments. And so it could be something huge like watching how people connected, when Robin Williams passed away, and sort of, I think everyone I know, we all became immersed in sort of seeing everyone's favorite clips of this amazing, talented man who we all loved, and sort of that sort of community of sharing. But then you also see, how these little stories that might not necessarily get discovered because of Twitter and sort of the way in which they travel. And so, in Syria, when all those young women were taken, this was a story that could have just stayed there, but it actually became a global story, and Twitter helped propel that as we all sort of responded to this moment. There's a famous Chinese artist called Ai Weiwei, who the government has really tried to censor. And he uses Twitter to connect to the world and communicate to the world and sort of share his philosophy on life. And it wouldn't be possible if Twitter didn't exist for so many people to get exposure to him. And it's because we're this public platform that can connect, you to anyone depending on your interests. So, as much as I believe in it, for brand purposes, I think the human value that we provide and the way that we sort of shed light and connect people is I think probably the most gratifying thing about being there.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for your time. Melissa Barnes from Twitter. She's the head of branding for all.
Head of global brands.
Head of global brands. Thank you so much. You're so kind. Your keynote was awesome. Thank you so much for Twitter inviting you, IMS. And muchísimas gracias a todos los que están viendo estos videos. Seguiremos haciendo entrevistas en IAB Conecta 2014.